You're on. You're on.
Am I really on? There, now I'm on. Well, thank you all for coming and give me a few moments to explain the idea, the proposal we had for a draft ordinance to correct some deficiencies we've been finding in our current animal control ordinances. So this started many months ago, about well over 2 years ago. And one of the things I had told folks that before I took the proposed ordinance change up before council, that I would have some sort of public meeting so people could come in and give me some ideas, and I could tell people kind of what we were looking at doing and things like this. Unfortunately, COVID hit when we were thinking just before we were going to put this onto the agenda, and it eliminated our ability for me to have any kind of public meeting. So I kept pushing this before council out by 2 months, 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 hoping that we'd have a break and be able to do something. Well, it's been well over 1.5 years now since we first started this, and I thought rather than waiting for someday in the future where we might be able to go just over to the Smith Center and sit down and talk or something, I better do something before. This week be 2 years like this. I mean, who really knows? So I thought I better start doing something now because we're still having the same issues occurring that predicated our need to come in and make some proposed changes to council. So what is this today? Well, one of the things I wanted to let folks know that this is not a meeting where any decisions are going to be made. There's no decisions to be made, certainly not by me. It's not a committee, it's not a workshop. It's not subject to the Nevada open meeting law in any way, shape, or form. So it's not a complaint session where people can tell us where we've not done something that needs to be done or something different. We're not here to complain about animal control or the personnel. There's another process for all of that, and that's not involved in this process. So if you have some things like that, please contact me, and we can take a look at some of the issues we have. But that's really not what I was here for today and what I was really trying to accomplish today. So what's this? Well, like I said, over about 1.5 years ago, we were looking at changing the city code, a lot of sections in the city code. And this was one of the ones that was proposed to bring it into line with what our contemporaries are doing, and also to address some of the issues we've been having. So what the proposed changes, what do they really do? Well, they're designed to do 2 things. One was to reduce conflict between groups of people trying to utilize our parks. And the second was to provide for everyone to have a reasonable ability to use those same parks for their activities. So it's trying to balance 2 things. Eliminate conflicts between different groups of people wanting to do different things, and at the same time, let people use the parks for all the things they want to be using it for and what they're currently using for, trying to do both at the same time. So what have we been dealing with? What predicated all this? We get a lot of complaints about aggressive dogs running loose, dogs running up to people, frightening or attacking their dogs. We have dog bites, both the humans and dogs. We've had dog fatalities where other dogs have attacked dogs, and a dog's been on a leash, another dog's ran up and killed it. We have dog feces scattered around playing areas, and people whose kids go to play are complaining about that because they're stepping and sliding in it. We have people letting their dogs run loose while they pay no attention to what the dogs are doing and where they're at. And when the dog starts misbehaving, they say things, they yell out, "He won't bite," or "Don't worry, he's really friendly." And when bad things happen, the usual response is things like, "Well, he's never done that before." Now, I'm a real dog lover. I have a blue tick coonhound, and it's really not a dog, at least in my brain. But I do also realize that it is a dog, and we sometimes forget that these are animals, and it's hard to predict what they're going to do next. I don't know about your dogs, but my dog, I don't think knows what it's going to do 5 minutes from now or 2 minutes from now. And it constantly surprises me on things it does or doesn't do. So because of the way our ordinance is now written, and by the way, I did a lot of research on our ordinance. This is the 1975 version, the 1985 version, the latest changes, which were made in 1995. And what I found is there have been virtually no changes to this part of the ordinance. So that leads me to believe that this ordinance that we're dealing with probably dates back to when the city was first became a city, which means some of our ordinances predated the city and were adopted by the city in 1960, which means they were made for a whole different time and a whole different population and a whole different use group. And we find this really common in our city ordinances, that some of the stuff is really, really outdated. When it says adopted January 1960, that means it was written in the 50s. So that's one of the things we've been dealing with, is outdated laws and ordinances. So we are purely responsive. We can't do any proactive. So if we see a dog off leash running through a park, until it does something, there's nothing our animal control people can really do because of the way the ordinance is written. The other thing is, if the dog does do something, bites somebody or attacks another dog, at worst case scenario, it's a misdemeanor. In this state, if an officer does not witness the misdemeanor, unless very special circumstances exist, we can't write a ticket or arrest anybody. We can't do it. It's called the misdemeanor presence rule. All of these laws under the city ordinance for dogs falls under the misdemeanor presence rule. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if something happens to you, you get bit, we can't write them a ticket. We cannot do anything like that. We can write a report and submit the report to the city prosecutor for charges, or we could let you basically make it a citizen's arrest, write them a ticket and release them. The problem with that is if the case does not go to court, if the person's found not guilty, you are now liable for false arrest. We are not under our circumstances because we are protected under the law for probable cause. Citizens are not. So we try to avoid that by saying, look, we submit a report to the prosecutor. It is virtually the same as a ticket. In other words, getting a ticket is merely your promise to appear in court later. We're releasing you with your promise to appear in court. So you lose nothing when we don't write a ticket. I know some people are frustrated. Well, no one got a ticket. Yeah, but we submitted a report to the prosecutor. It's virtually the same thing. They get a summons and have to go to court and answer for the actions of their animal. The other thing is, most of our ordinances, when it comes to biting, has nothing to do with the dogs biting another dog. It only has to do with it biting people. If the dog bites another dog, these ordinances don't apply. It says bites a human. So if a dog bites another dog, we can't impound that dog and hold it because it bit another dog. It has to be a human. So we have some difficulties there. There are some sections that allow for a property loss, which of course your dog is your property, but they don't allow us to do a lot of things, and people get confused about that sometimes, what we can and we cannot do. Really what I want to do is I want to clean some of this stuff up so we can be a little more proactive and prevent some things from happening. In the case we are now, it's like if these were traffic laws, we'd have to wait till somebody runs into you before we could do anything. And then it's too late. And, I've gone to the hospital and visited people who have been tore up. We've talked to people whose what used to be a dog is, this little bloody pile is all that's left. And the people, of course, they're just aghast that their dog did this and can't understand why it happened, but it's a little bit too late. So the current ordinances we don't have a leash law. We have a prohibition against running at large, and it's a misdemeanor. And it requires the animal to be under reasonable control. And what in the world does that all mean? It means that under the direct control, giving authority and or visual commands, and the animal is obeying those commands or not in any way violating the provisions of this chapter. So if you have a dog running around and the owner's standing there and he goes, come, and the dog looks over his shoulder and keeps going, well, you're now at large. But until that point, you're not, or unless it does something else that's prohibited anywhere in this chapter. Well, it also says if the dog steps on the sidewalk, steps on the street, steps on the property of another, it's at large and deemed not to be in reasonable control. So if you're at the park and your dog's off the leash and it walks over and it steps on the sidewalk, according to our ordinance, it's now at large. If it steps in the parking lot, it's now at large. So that's, when you're sitting there and your dog's sitting right next to you and it moves 45, inches over or 4 inches over to the sidewalk and steps on it, is that really a legitimate violation? Well, no, I don't think, not really. It's what's the difference if it goes 4 inches one way, it's on grass, 4 inches the other, it's got its foot on the sidewalk. So that, I don't think, Ann, we've ever enforced something like that, have we? No. It's not under control when damage to the person or property of anyone other than the owner. So if it damages anything that doesn't belong to the owner, it's beyond control. The park code, which is also included in this, the park code prohibits dogs unless led by a leash, cord, or chain not more than 6 feet long. Then there's a little caveat on there. So right now the park code says the dog has to be on a leash, except as provided elsewhere in this code. The whole city code. So if there's something else in the city code that conflicts with that language, then that language takes precedent. That's what makes it so very difficult with us, because on one hand, it looks like the intent was, you got to have your dog on a leash if it's in a park. But then this little sentence down here, unless it conflicts with something else in the code, basically says, no, it doesn't anymore. So it's kind of it's hard to understand what needs to be done. So what does the draft proposal, what does it really do? It cleans up the ambiguous language. For example, there's no definition of reasonable control. There's nothing in there that tells you what reasonable control is in the code. So there's a new definition of what reasonable control would be. And it's fairly simple. Reasonable control shall mean keeping an animal suitably restrained and or under effective restraint and or control to prevent damage or injury to another person or property of another. That's it. That's reasonable control. You have control of your animal. It doesn't mean it has to be on a leash. It doesn't mean it has to be in a pen or a cage. It just means that you have to have it under control. So it doesn't require a dog to always be on a leash. It does not close the parks to off-leash. It permits the city to designate what parks during what times off-leash can occur. However, if off-leash, you still must exercise reasonable control and the dog can't be at large. So it doesn't close the parks. It just says, look, the city's going to go and say, these parks at these times are available for off-leash activities with dogs. And they're posted. There's nice signs there that say, here's the sign. What does that help us do? That allows areas to be designated for different activities at different times and days to deconflict. So if you're going to take your dog out walking, and at Broadbent Park, we allow off-leash dogs from 6 in the morning till noon, Monday through Tuesday, or Monday through Friday. If you walk by with your dog on a leash, there's a good chance another dog may run up to it. But you know that beforehand. Right now, you have no idea what's going to happen when or where. So what the city can do is look at those places where it's appropriate to have off-leash activities and deconflict with other activities that might be going on. I've gone down and looked and seen people trying to do like yoga stuff and things like this in the park, and someone's dog will, hey, it's curious, want to see what's going on. My dog would run over there. Well, not everybody knows that your dog's a friendly dog, and some people are intimidated by that, and they complained to us that this dog ran over. The dog wasn't going to harm anybody, didn't harm anybody, but in fact, it's now beyond reasonable control. It's not beyond reasonable control to run over there unless the owner called it back and it didn't come. That's the problem with this. If the owner didn't see it and wasn't watching it, it's not beyond reasonable control unless it bites somebody or destroys the property. It allows areas to be designated for different activities at different dates and times to deconflict non-compatible uses. The city could say, look, if you want, we will turn around and say, this area is for small dogs, this area is for large dogs. We could do that if it's something that people would like to see done. I know I go to dog parks all the time, and there are large dog parks and small dog parks. Now, some people will take the small dogs into the large one, but I never see people taking the large dogs into the small one. Usually it's the other way around. People say, no, my dog's fine around larger dogs. But it gives people space, and it gives them an ability to keep the dogs separate. And every once in a while, you'll see a little dog in the park, and a big dog will come screaming over to the fence, going, barking and acting very aggressive towards the smaller dog. And the people say, I don't know why this dog has never done this before, but luckily there's a fence there. Right now in our parks, that doesn't exist. We could turn around, which some cities do in their dog parks, and they restrict in the areas where the dogs are off leash, no children under 5. And there's a reason for that, because these big dogs get running and chasing each other. And, we have a 120-pound running mad German Shepherd smash into a 5-year-old that weighs about 40 pounds. You can do quite a bit of damage. So parents know, hey, don't bring your under 5-year-olds in there. And every once in a while, I'll still see that. You'll see a couple 2 or 3-year-olds running around trying to chase someone's dog and play with the doggy. And the dog really doesn't want anything to do with the kids. So it allows us to deconflict that also. And you can also put requirements up, that we have these anyway, that you can clean up after your dog in the restricted areas. If you don't clean up after the dog, we can try and say, we're going to take this away from you. We're not going to punish everybody else, but we have the ability to try and say, we're not going to permit you to bring your dog into our off-leash areas because you don't do the right thing. Now, we put stanchions up with bags. Where I live, there are stanchions with bags all over the place, and you will see a pile right next to the stanchion where someone didn't bother to clean their dog up. But again, it allows people to know when and where they could expect to have off-leash dogs and avoid those locations and times if they're concerned about conflicts with their restrained dog. And it does require adequate posting. So the city is required to post these things so people know. And it also allows for special permitted activities. It's not ambiguous anymore. The city has the ability through parks to allow off-leash, not beyond control or in reasonable control, but off-leash for dog trials or dog shows or parades and all these kind of things that allows these things to happen. So one of the things that I was, there's another thing that would be a really big help to us, and I've talked to folks as I've gone to parks and talked to them. One of my ideas, I don't know if it's a good idea, one thing I was hoping to get some input on is, if we do these areas, the city has a hard time keeping up with all the stuff being left by dogs. But if we could get people that would help us do this, kind of along the lines where people adopt parts of a highway and keep it clean, that would help us out a great deal. And if that point of conflict goes away, it really helps us keep the dog parks open, because in my brain, that's what we really want. We want that people have the ability to take their dogs to areas, let them off leash to do things we like to see our dogs do, without having conflicts, without people getting bit and doing all this. That's what we're really trying to accomplish, to allow both things to happen simultaneously, not to end it, but to put it in places so people don't up in a mess. Because if your dog does bite somebody, even in running an off-leash area, you are responsible. You're responsible for all the medical bills. You're responsible for all of this. Anything your dog does to somebody, you're responsible for. If your dog bites another dog and the vet bills, you're held responsible for all that. It's your property damaging the property of another. So I think it's a very good thing to try to eliminate these. And the other thing I was asking, and this is just for my information because I have no say, I have no decision in any of this, but my thought was, because I could look around and I can come to Roger and say, gosh, Roger, this would be a great place to let dogs off leash in the morning maybe. But the people who live around there, the people who go there, they don't want anything to do with that. So I was hoping is that some folks would let us know where they think is a good place, a good time that we could let this happen. Now, some places we have no choice. We can't do it, even if we want to. Hemingway Park is one of those. We cannot have off-leash dogs there because of the bighorn sheep, and there's a federal regulation, I believe, on that or something. So even if we wanted to let dogs off-leash there, we can't. So are there off-leash dogs there occasionally? Yes, there are. So do we have to deal with that every once in a while? We do. But other areas, I'm just not sure. And anyway, that's it. That's what I was hoping for. That's why I was bringing people out to kind of dispel rumors that we're trying to end this and keep people from letting their dogs off leash. That is not true. That's not true. What we're trying to do is provide areas where people can do that and and provide some separation and deconflict and keep people from getting bit and getting dogs from getting bit or killed as much as we possibly can. It's preventive maintenance, I guess, is the best way I could describe it. And that's all I really had. Nothing much more than that. And if anybody had any questions or comments for me or anything like that, I'm more than happy to hear them. Yes, ma'am. Sure. I can't hear you anyway.
You can't hear me anyway. I have a big mouth. No, just teasing. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Thank you. And I thought this was a leash law where you're going to start packing all the dogs down and whatnot. But I want to also say right away that we love Anne. She does a great job, her and her team. They're just amazing. But my concern is over by the post office, so many adults over there take their dogs in the evening time like seniors, and they sit around and it's a social time for them. They do it in the morning and the evening time. And I think it's important for that socialization for them to get out, and they're actually getting out of their cars and getting the dogs down to the park. And I've been down there, I have dogs, and they truly enjoy the socialization and the time spent. And so I'd hate to see that taken away, because that's kind of what Boulder City's all about, kind of family friendly, and seeing a dog chasing a Frisbee or something like that. And I get that. It's very frustrating to me to see people not pick up their dog poop. And if you're over at the post office park there, the people will let somebody know that they didn't pick up their dog poop. They're very good about keeping everybody on target, or if there's an aggressive dog, doing something about it. So I would just like to see those kinds of things. I know over by the park, I know some people go down to, there's a group that sits right beside the park where the swimming pool is. I see them there every morning. And then there's another group that meets out at Pratt Field. I just kind of see them there all the time with their dogs. So maybe there's some answers where you get at certain times of the day, and I don't know what you're ever going to do about the dog poop issue. I think every association deals with that, and I don't know what the answer is. It's a shame that people won't clean up after their dogs. But I would just hate to see us lose out that, that feeling of the small town where it's family friendly and people spending time with their dogs and stuff like that. I've gone up there, I've enjoyed it. And then I have one other one I'd like to do is the dog fancier's law. If we could get working on that so people could have 4 dogs in this community, it would be wonderful. If you could bring that up. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, that's the thing I've talked to Roger about, is how in the world we figure out which places were appropriate, what were inappropriate. And that's what I was hoping people let us know.
Across from the post office, that's a biggie for the seniors, I know. And maybe some others have some more to offer, but down by the seniors. because I have little dogs. If you have a large dog, you can go down to the dog park and let them off leash and they could run lickety-split. But my little ones they want grass under their little pitty pads. And then it's kind of fun to go down there and sit and visit with everybody in the evening time too. So thank you.
Well, I think that, this phenomenon of dog parks is really not ancient. It's really kind of new. I'm trying to remember when I first saw my first dog parks, and it hasn't been that long in the scheme of things. I know in the Seattle area, I think the first ones popped up probably in the 90s, or late 90s or early 2000s. Before that, there really weren't any. So it's become much, much more popular, and people do expect to be able to go to park areas and have off-leash areas. I think what's happened is the times just kind of passed our ordinances by. Another thing we're finding is for every area that people point out to us that this is a wonderful place, we always have the counter side that thinks it's a horrible place. So we have to mitigate all that out. Sure. This isn't as formal like a council meeting or anything. It's just me.
I have a question
Sure.
about the use of the baseball fields at Veterans Memorial. Those 4 fields sit empty most of the time, but the city will rent it out for AKC to hold agility competitions, right?
Sure.
Those people, when they're right in that area, because I walk there every morning and I'm out in the desert and everything, those people are good about picking up in that specific area. But I have witnessed them out in the desert and conveniently looking the other way when their dog takes a dump
Yeah.
and just goes. And that desert area between the Boulder Creek and the park, it's disgusting. And I don't know how you can fix that, and it goes along to the same thing that you were saying about people not picking up. That's one thing I have. The other thing I have, what kind of ordinance is there about people in their cars in the desert with the dogs running beside it? I witnessed it again today.
It's kind of interesting. Someone sent me some pictures of that. I can't think of anything that would be violating. There's no violation on a dirt road letting your dog out and you're driving around and letting your dog run after you.
I mean, I will say this, the dogs were very good. They were right next to the car. They weren't being aggressive. But what if something happened and they run over their dog?
Yeah, it's then we'd have a reaction we'd have to do. In other words, but this ordinance would have nothing to do with anything like that.
Okay, well, back to the baseball fields, and that's the way I am. I'm old. I jump around with thoughts. The one backfield, southwest field. At one time, dogs could go in there. Now it's been locked up ever since the pandemic. And is that going to ever be opened up again?
Well, I can't say yes or no on anything, but that was one of the options I was hoping that the city would be able to take a look at under this ordinance and use for something like that if it's appropriate to do so. I mean,
okay.
You figure if it's again, that's over on the park side, but I wouldn't want to pin anybody against the wall saying, oh, yeah, definitely we're going to do something. I think what it is sit down and look at those places that are reasonable. And again, back in my experience has been, if you have a fenced area that they can operate in, that's better for everybody.
Yeah, and like our dog park, it's a nice little dog park. Mm-hmm. However, it's very popular, and my dog is not overly friendly, and I go out of my way to keep her away from dogs.
Sure.
And she's a big girl, and that's another reason I don't want to get pulled on my belly if she wants to take off after somebody. So, but in that area with the grass, it's a little bigger than what the dog park is, and I think you could really utilize that a little bit for the citizens versus letting AKC have agility there.
Sure.
So, anyway, thank you.
You bet.
And I have something for Patrick.
Did somebody call in and have something for me?
They'll call back probably.
Okay. I believe there was a number posted that you can call in on, 702-589-9629. Yeah, if somebody wants to call in, well, I can do back and forth if somebody calls in. I just didn't want to interrupt somebody speaking, that's all. Anybody else have anything for me or something that didn't sound clear? Or again, this not being a decision-making thing, when it goes before council, it still has several steps to go before them, but that's where the decisions will be made. Sir.
Good evening, Chief. I responded in writing to the article that I initially saw regarding this meeting today and the leash law situation. I emailed Ann. If you don't mind, I'd like to read that email very quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, and it's setting foundation on my opinion as well. My name is William Salazar. This is my wife, Maggie. I'm a resident here in Boulder City. I currently teach a dog handler development course for Parks and Recreation. I have also written many training articles for the Boulder City magazine, of which I attached one in particular addressing this issue. I attached it to the email to Ann. I'm a retired 23-year law enforcement officer, canine handler, and feel very frustrated to see dog owners break the law and disregard posted signs regarding the leash law and picking up after the dogs. I agree that the vagueness and gray area in the city leash ordinances hinders the enforcement of the code. Unless at a sanctioned and controlled trial, supervised and contained training event, or a designated off-leash area, including the trails, there should be no exception to the leash law, in my opinion. A under reasonable control dog may appear that way until it encounters a dog that wants to dominate or challenge its pack position, typically resulting in a dog fight with injuries to not only the other dogs, but to people as well. I would like to provide my training and experience as a certified police canine instructor, post-certified canine team evaluator, cross-trained patrol and narcotics detection police handler, and many years of AKC competition to render my professional opinion on this matter.
Well, thank you.
So, in a nutshell, that's how I feel. I did read the ordinances, the 733, 738, Frank B section, the Frank section of the prior one. If I'm not mistaken, Chief, I believe that there is a clause in there or something that indicates dog on dog as well, not just dog on people, but I'm not positive. I'd have to review that, but that's a concern to me. Another concern to me is the fact that on Nevada Way, there probably should be a restriction on off-lead, no off-lead exceptions at all between Buchanan and Colorado. That area is so densely populated, especially in front of Jack's, that there are many, many issues because people are there and a little intoxicated or whatever, just don't have the total control of their dogs. So that's an area of concern to me. Of course, the vet memorial issue, you've already discussed that, and I agree with your position on that. But again, in my class, I specifically talk about control. Safety and control is my priority with the course I teach. And that it is still too vague, in my opinion, because we have not discussed what control is. I know what control is. I know what a call-off is. I know that when a dog gets stimulated and something stimulates its drive, a drive in the environment, that's when you find out whether you have control or not. It could be another dog. It could be a coyote, scent coming downwind. Any of these things can trigger a natural reaction in a dog, and that's where you're going to find out whether you have control or not. So it's still extremely vague, and maybe we can we're going to have to clarify that a little bit further, in my opinion. I mean, I'd like to also discuss, maybe I can do a little bit more research and maybe render another opinion at some other time. I don't want to take up too much time right now, but I still think it's extremely vague.
Sure, come on and see me anytime and we'll sit down and chat.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief.
You bet. You want to try some phones now? We'll try phones since people are calling in. Were they on hold there, Hillary? Or? Okay. Yeah, I tell a story about a friend of mine. She was out walking her dog in a very nice area of Seattle called Green Lake and never had a problem with this German Shepherd. She's a real fitness person, taught aerobics and everything, and the dog's a pretty good-sized dog, ex-police dog, but a real mellow type dog. And something upset this dog and jerked her off her feet. Now, she weighs about 105 pounds. The dog weighed about 120. And drug her along the grass to finally some people were able to jump in and grab the dog, but she could not get back to her feet. And no one knows to this day what it was. You need to turn the mic on there?
Hi. Just waiting for my turn.
It's your turn.
Okay, great. Hey, I sent in an email. I didn't hear anybody reading it. I'm not going to get into what I got into on the email, but I'd really appreciate people understanding what a tremendous responsibility a dog already is. I mean, people don't realize that 2 lawyers in San Francisco were sent to jail for many years, one 15 to life, for what their dogs did. One of those people that went to jail, I think he went for 4 years, wasn't even in the city at the time his dog attacked a neighbor. We already have quite a bit of responsibility as dog owners. So obviously, I'm not going to risk it if I know my dog has problems. But you can't simply say all dogs are the same. It's ridiculous. There are trained service animals. There are, mine is a golden retriever. A golden retriever is not a pit bull. A golden retriever does not react the same as a pit bull. So when you have a control ordinance for all dogs, you're punishing dogs that have behaved their whole life. I've had my dog for 8 years. The worst thing she's done is lick people without permission. I mean, and I know that is intolerable to some people, but you're taking away. We treat our pets. We sleep with our pets. We bury them in pet cemeteries. They're part of the family, and I don't want them to be treated like property. And the fact that somebody went to jail for what a dog did in San Francisco is crazy when you think about the parents of the Parkland shooter didn't go to jail. The parents of the Columbine shooter didn't go to jail. So we've already got all these civil liabilities on us, and we've already got insurance companies asking us what type of dogs we have when we get homeowners insurance and we go to the RV park. What kind of dog do you have? Everybody understands there's a difference in dog breeds. You can't have a penalty for all dogs because some dogs are the sweetest things in the world. Some dogs will bite you for looking at them funny. So to take away my dog's ability to exercise because some bad actor dogs might do something is ridiculous when you have all the stacks of civil and criminal liability that I already have by owning a dog. Nobody asked me what kind of child I had when I moved into my home, but I was asked what kind of dog I had. So this whole idea of having violations in a code on all dogs is really crazy because nobody considers all dogs to be the same, except when you have a code for dogs. Now you're talking about service dogs, you're talking about golden retrievers, you're talking about chihuahuas, the same as pit bulls. It's crazy. And I really need a place where I can run my dog. My dog has no ability, because I'm a good citizen, I have no grass in my half acre that I own. It's all rocks. My neighbors are all rocks. They've covered the tennis courts with rocks. Everything's crushed rock. So the only place I can go and exercise my dog is at a city park. And she's been around for 8 years, has never bit anybody. So why is she being punished for something that some dog might do or has done in the past? That dog that you are talking about here that has killed another dog, like you said, there's civil liabilities that they have to deal with. That should make the owner say, wait a minute, I have a dog that I have to leash, But to say that all dogs have to be leashed because there are some dogs that have to be leashed is excessive, and it's kind of a nanny state kind of thing. So I really appreciate, I've only got a few patches of grass left, and my dog is a golden retriever. She needs to run. I can't keep up with her when she does. I need a place where she can break out and run, and I'm down to like 3 patches of grass in the city that I have to drive 2.5 miles already to get to. And 5 months a year, that's the only place I can take her. I can't walk her on the sidewalk. She burns her feet. So I'm down to this, and if you take it away, it's gonna shorten my dog's life. It's probably gonna shorten my life because I don't get out as much. I don't see any benefit to walking a dog on a leash when it needs to run. I mean, she'll never be able to stretch out again if you do this. So please realize that there are several different types of dogs, and it's the owner that knows his dog the best or her dog the best, and that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thanks. You have something? Come on up. Again, this is I really wanted this to be informal, and unfortunately the circumstances don't allow it, so it was.
Thank you. My name's Fred DeMano. I think that what I'm hearing is very unclear as to what possibly might be going down on this leash law. Dog owners are the ones that are responsible, first and foremost, in my mind. And people who have animals that they think are tough and, they like to have the macho thing going on, that's all well and good. I think if you're going to penalize somebody, penalize the owner when a dog takes off at the park, if it chews somebody up. I don't, we read the police blotter pretty much every week. I don't see a whole lot in there about people getting bit or dogs being mauled. So I don't know exactly what the basis is for the complaints. And I'm sure you get a lot of complaints, but we don't know about them as citizens. We don't hear it. I know what my dog has done, and I know my dog has scared some people before because she'll take off and run after a coyote if a coyote's over here in the park. That's my fault. And if somebody's going to be penalized, it should be me. And if I have to keep my dog on a leash because she can't be trusted, then again, that's my fault. I don't think people who exercise their dogs and throw a ball and a frisbee should be penalized for other dogs' behavior and the owners of the other dog's behavior, and not cleaning up and, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Other dog's behavior and the owners of the other dog's behavior, and not cleaning up.
Go ahead.
That's it.
I'm sorry. I wanted to add my input. I finally just went up to my computer to get it streaming. Oh, it's still there. Okay, get it streaming, and I couldn't use both at the same. I left my message, and unfortunately, I did not hear the entire video or the live broadcasting, but I wanted to add my Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was live.
Yeah, you're feeding back into yourself.
Okay. All right.
And what is your name?
So my concern is, and I didn't get to see and hear the entire broadcast, but I moved here from Chicago area last year, and I'm not sure if you guys are talking about a total leash law for the whole city, or if you're talking about just at dog parks. So yes, I think we should have a grassed area for the dogs to run, so that in I think large dogs and small dogs separated sounds great, and more than one area if possible. But as everybody here has stated, or most of the people have stated, it is the responsibility of the dog owner to have control of that dog. And no one knows what a dog will do at any given moment. We can only assume based upon their personality. And just like the gentleman was saying about when you have children, you don't get asked what type of children you have, but our children grow up and are responsible adults, hopefully, if we did our job right. With dogs, they don't grow up and move on and make educated decisions. We are responsible for our dogs, period. If we're talking about the community as a whole having a dog leash law, I'm for that. And then having areas that are grassed with large or small dogs separated, or a large small dog area combined, if people want to choose that, to have that, and maybe more than one dog park. But we are responsible, or we should be responsible, for our animals as well as our children. And somebody had said something about, that the parents weren't arrested for whatever. I don't know those cases that he was referring to for the children, but after a certain age of a child, we are no longer in control of their actions. We are always in control of our pets' actions. So I get it, we're in the desert here, and we have very limited grass. I understand that. But as a homeowner, I'm sorry, there's my dog barking. As a homeowner and a responsible adult. I feel that it's important to have grassy areas for our dogs to roam, small, large, and then maybe a combined area that are big enough within a fence. And that's my opinion, and I just wanted to give my input. I know we've had issues within our community here in the HOA where a dog got loose. He was on a leash, but he got out of the control and attacked another dog. So even though they were on leashes, the owner still couldn't control them. So we have issues with those regards. And yes, we are responsible for the actions of our dogs and our pets. And that's all I have to say, and I hope it helps somebody. Thank you very much, and have a nice night.
Thank you.
Comment line, can you please state your name and go ahead with your comment?
My name is Carol Ann, and I live in Boulder City. And I have 3 reasons why I believe a Boulder City leash law.
Tell her to turn it. You have to
is
turn your
absolutely
device
imperative.
down.
Can you turn down your TV?
Oh, yes, just a sec.
Looks like the delay's not as bad as it used to be.
Okay. On July 16th, 2019, I was walking Lily, my small terrier mix, on a leash in our neighborhood when a large mixed breed dog, off leash, came up behind us, jumped on Lily, and knocked us both down. Lily suffered 2 puncture wounds on the back of her neck, and I had a large, painful bruise on my arm from falling into a rock. Lily's trip to the vet resulted in 2 weeks of antibiotics and other pills, including a neck cone. On October 13, 2019, I was walking Lily on her leash in the same area when a large Australian Shepherd mix off leash came running up to Lily. When Lily started to howl and feel fear, I picked her up and the dog jumped up with her front feet on Lily's side until the owner came with her leash and pulled her dog down. I checked Lily when we got home, and as I watched her, I saw her start to shake, and then some blood appeared on her side. When I pulled back her hair in that spot, I saw blood starting to come from a wound. A friend drove us to an emergency vet hospital in Las Vegas. A drain tube was inserted, and many more pills and antibiotics were to be administered through October 27, 2019. On November 19, 2019, Lily was throwing up everything and would not eat. After a day of trying special food from the vet and limited water, she was not any better, so she was admitted to the vet hospital for treatment. The next day, Lily died. The vet said it was all just too much for her little heart. I believe Lily died because there was no leash law in Boulder City, and I believe there needs to be a general leash law for all dogs to have a chance at being safe along with people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have, give them a couple more minutes, but. Sure.
My name's Craig Wilkinson. I've been a resident here for about 25 years. Owner of a number of dogs in that time period, and very fortunate to meet some very, very good dog owners. Matter of fact, every morning I walk with a group of dog owners that are very responsible for their animals. And I'm very sympathetic with this young lady that called on the phone about the death of her dog. But I'm not sure that anything that we do can prevent 100% accidents and injuries. Dogs will jump fences to get to other dogs. You know, it's an unfortunate thing. And I'm very sympathetic for her. But I think you would agree, Chief, probably 90% of your time is spent on 10% of the population. So what we're looking at here is 95% of the canine owners in this town are responsible. They pick up after their animals. Their animals are socialized. If not, they walk them in the desert. You know, the other 5% are the ones that we got to deal with. How do you modify the regulations that we capture that 5% that won't be responsible regardless of what is written on the codes? You have your work cut out for you. Talking with a group of dog owners, primarily we are at the Veterans Park, Pratt's soccer field. We have no problem sharing the field at times with other activities. We know we don't own that. We're happy to share that. And being part of sharing, we're willing to take our time. We'd go early in the morning, then in the evening. There's opportunities to coexist here without leashes. There are dogs that are going to have them, period. I've seen them. We've been around them. But there are other dogs, as this other caller mentioned, my dog loves to run after Frisbees. I don't know how I can do that with a leash on him. And other things is, we got to be careful to chip away the freedoms that we have in this town. This is a great town to live in. I love living in this town. It was great 25 years ago. And one of the reasons is that we had a lot of freedoms. You could take our dirt bikes to the dry lakes. We could do things with kids and our dogs that we could not do in Baltimore, where I moved from. Do not take it so far that you hurt the 95% and attempt to get the other 5% in compliance. Thank you.
And, like I say before, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is provide some deconfliction and provide for everyone to go be able to do as much as reasonable what they're doing right now, and try to figure out ways to give areas for each group of people that want to do something. Just like you can't do certain things in every park. Some things are regulated to certain places. You can't go out and play hardball at the water park, the splash park. And that's really kind of what it is taking different parts of our parks and designating them for different uses at different times, and not eliminating things.
Comment line, please state your name and then go ahead with your comment.
Yes, I'd like to speak.
And what's your name?
Kurt Eric.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Should I speak right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because he's talking right now. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's you.
I just want to say that I think it's a good idea if you're going to do different hours at different parks, especially for different organized events. But please always leave one park open at one time or another, because people have different schedules. So there will be a park open at night, in the afternoon, in the morning, at all different times. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't need their name for anything. I'm not writing names. I'm just writing ideas down, so it's not necessary.
Oh.
It's all right. With people's masks on, I don't know who they are anyway, so. I'm not even sure who you are. Yeah. I'll just give it a few more minutes and say I didn't want to make this very long, but I did want to give an opportunity to, live up to what I said I was going to do before something happened. And I don't know, City Manager, Mr. Mays is here. There was a plan to put it on a upcoming council session, but we may have to move it because there are things that need to go on that agenda, and it's getting pretty crowded, and having people here till 2 a.m. is just not very popular. So I'm not exactly sure when this is going to come up again, but I also encourage people, if there's anything you want to bring to our attention, or you want to come talk to me about this or anything at all, I want a little bit of one-on-one time, I'll make myself available. I told folks I'll come anywhere, anytime, any place, and talk about things. And I'm not a decision maker on this. I have input into it, and I just thought that this path was kind of the right one to go down. We'll see if I'm right, I guess. Yes, ma'am.
What about getting Cokie Booth, Boulder City,
Yeah.
What about getting a few people together to go over this that are dog people that can maybe come up with some suggestions for you, because we couldn't really read what you were trying to do and what you wanted to accomplish. Because I know Mr. Salazar would be a good one. Don't agree 100%, but but I do think there's definitely a need for leash, especially downtown. No dog should be downtown and around the bars without a leash on and under control of somebody. But maybe some of us could sit down with you and
Sure, absolutely. And what's happened is I had kind of a little draft, and the city attorney, we have a new city attorney, wanted to go through it, and I got her initial back to me Sunday. And it just wasn't enough time to get everything put together, so we're going to look at it. I still have to go through it, and she cleaned up a lot of language and did all sorts of great things on it. But if people want to come and take a look at what it would look like, it just shows what the current ordinance says and what the changes are in there, and you'll see there's really not a whole bunch of changes. It just allows us to basically designate certain parks, certain times, certain days. Some parks could be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I really don't know. Other areas, because seasonal things, maybe these parks areas aren't used at all during the winter for hardly anything because there's no sports going on or whatever, and those would be open up. So it really is kind of an open, I would say it's kind of like the old George Carlin football field and baseball field. It's kind of an open baseball field of where it should be and when it should be. And they could be all over the place. It could be all of our parks have designated times. I really don't know. It's something that's outside of my bailiwick, but I was hoping to stimulate something along those lines to and prevent some of the things that can we prevent everything? No. I mean, look at all the traffic laws we have. We don't prevent collisions. You know, do we prevent everything? We do not. But we have a reasonable expectation when we drive down the road, we're going to make it back home. And that's all we're trying to do.
Could we get this up on the web then, instead of having to come see you? Could it be thrown up on the web somewhere where we could go look at it?
I don't know. I have to find out.
How about Facebook?
Well, it's thick.
Oh.
So I'm thinking that I'm not sure exactly how we can do that. Is that permissible, Mr. Mays?
Good evening, everybody. Michael Mays. I'm the acting city manager and the community development director. And first, I want to just thank everybody for participating either in person or calling in. This is another opportunity to receive public input in this process. And I guess a couple of things. First, certainly, I would encourage everyone to follow up with the chief and provide their email information so they can provide additional questions, as well as find out when this will be brought before the council for consideration. With any ordinance that's brought before the council for any text amendment changes, it requires first a bill introduction. The bill introduction, there's no action taken by the council. They just introduce the bill, and at the next subsequent city council meeting, that's when they have discussion on the bill. So I wanted to clarify that for everyone. So this would be a two-step process. And certainly, once you have made the modifications to the proposed ordinance, you could put it up on the city's website and encourage the people that are here and the people out in the public to review that and to ask any questions.
Good, that'd be great.
Yep.
And thank you for clarifying that. So the first time it goes before council, everything will be posted also on the website. You can read everything that's there, but nothing occurs at that first meeting. They just introduce it. There's no comments, there's no discussion, no anything. It's not until the following meeting, which is at least 2 weeks away, that they would have any deliberations. So we're still a long way off. We don't even know exactly which date for sure we're even going to introduce it because of the large numbers of other important things we have to get done at these meetings. So it could be a while. But in the meantime, I will take what the city attorney sent to me and get it into a format so it's easy to read and get it up so people can take a look. I really do want to know what people think. And if I'm really off base, I really like to find out. Yes, sir.
I do have one more question. Let's say this is a foregone conclusion, there's going to be a leash law, and there's going to be certain hours at certain parks that we're not allowed to exercise our dogs or let them off leash or take them out in the desert. I'm not sure, there's not a lot of clarity as to what's gonna go down here. But if there is a leash law, and there are certain times, what's gonna happen now? If we're half an hour off and animal control comes through the park and it's like, you're gonna start writing tickets? What are the consequences for us as pet owners
Well,
if we're out of line?
Sure. I believe as anything else, we expect our people to be reasonable, and when there's violations, it's like not everybody who gets stopped on a traffic stop certainly gets a ticket. It's very, very few, to tell you the honest truth. Unless you're a traffic officer, then of course they write everybody, including their mother, a ticket. But the officers have a lot of discretion, and for the most part, the idea is just a simple, hey, it's a little bit past time, or, the leash law is in effect after 6:30, and here it is 7:45, and you really have to stop. We deal with those things all the time, and it's still a great community, and I find that 99% of people, if you just give them a little friendly reminder, they're great. I mean, there are people that do things all the time and look over their shoulder and see one of us sitting there and they stop doing it. We don't have to even say a word to them. So to make a long answer out of a short question, I would hope, I require our people to continue to act that way. I don't believe people need tickets and things like that to do the right thing. I believe 90% of people will do the proper thing and act responsibly. I really do. And like I say, there's just two sides to every story. You just got to weigh things out and try to meet everybody's needs as much as we can with the limited resources we have. Because all of us with dogs, we don't want our dogs to go out and hurt people. There's been a dog park I was the other day, and some grandmother brought her little 1.5-year-old in with diapers, and she got slammed by a dog. Of course, the people felt really bad about it, but a little kid get hurt pretty bad. But once that's done, it's done. There's no taking it back. There's no, hey, whoops, second chance. So I think we have a hard time sometimes seeing our dogs as dogs. I mean, I do. I didn't have a dog growing up, but once I got one, it's really amazing how attached you get to them, and you realize that they have emotions and do all sorts of stuff. And it's hard for me sometimes to realize that some people, my dog could be frightening. The one I have now isn't, because she's still a puppy, but I had one before that really was. It was a 125 pounds of pure muscle dog. But, and be honest, I thought the dog was just great, but I didn't ever trust that dog. There was something about it, and every once in a while, you never knew what it was going to do. I had the thing chase salmon one day, jumped into a river to chase salmon, so I was kind of surprised. But so that's all. I mean, we all see our dogs this way, but they are still animals, and they still have those instincts in them. I know with my dog, I can walk along and see another dog, and she couldn't care less. And then there's somebody else coming, and she is straining at her harness and up on her back feet, and I'm holding on to her, and I can't figure out. They read body language constantly, and they just react off of it. And anyway, I can talk all day. I tell people it's one of my 18 identified personality faults is talk too much. It's the gaff, the Irish in me, I guess. So. But I do, please, I will get that up, and please, anyone who wishes to have me come speak to them, or if you want to come and speak to me, just let me know. I'll make myself available. I try to do it anytime, any place. I tell folks I'll come talk to them. I don't want people to think we're trying to sneak something by them or trying to cut them off from doing what they want to do with their dogs or anything like that. That's really not the case at all. I'm very sympathetic, and I wish there was more in larger dog parks, but they just don't exist in this part of the country. Like where I came from, where they were huge, massive things. I mean, one I went to was 200 and some acres, but yes, Ann?
Chief, do you want to mention that we do have all the emails that were sent in, and that you do have them, and Animal Control has them, and we are keeping track of them?
I wasn't going to sit and read all these emails. They're really communications to us for some input and things, and they fall along the same lines of what you all have been saying, but I really do appreciate the input and stuff, and I have them all right here in a stack, and I read through all of them today, and I highlighted areas and looked at some thoughts. There was a couple that had some ideas I really never thought of. So they are very valuable, and I really do appreciate those, but I wasn't going to read them all. It's not like we're creating a record or something here. We're not. It's just we're making notes for ourselves to make sure we're not missing anything. So it's not going to be transcribed or anything like that. It's not like minutes. So, but I do appreciate the written comments. But anything you want to say, Roger? You're good? Okay, well, thank you very much. Oops, one more call.
Comment line, go ahead.
Yes, good evening. A couple of comments for you. First, I'm interested in expansion of the dog park that we have at Veterans Memorial Park to include the grassy area, whether that's ball field number 3, which apparently was at one time a dog area, or we take some part or all of the Great Lawn and fence that off and then further fence it off so that some of the folks who are claiming they need to run their dogs off leash would have a long run area to do that with, or to have them chase a ball or frisbee, but they're still not completely unconstrained and motivated potentially by either smells or sights to go off and do something that maybe they've never done before, but they suddenly are deciding to do. And talking about the dog breeds and good and bad is really a tough situation and distinction to make, because if an animal has been abused by somebody else in another part of its life, and it has certain aggressive instincts or passive instincts, there's no way of saying that a pit bull is automatically bad, or a golden retriever, to use the example of the other speaker, is automatically good. They may have been beaten, they may have been abused in some other way, they may have been trained to be mean at some point, and those experiences or trainings or instincts can all come out at the least opportune time. So I think we have to really look very hard at being responsible and making sure, hopefully through some sort of a universal leash law, that all of the animals are somehow under the control at all times of the owner if they're out in public, whether it's at a park or on the street. Regarding the dog waste issue, humans don't pick up after themselves, whether it's a child or an adult in many cases. And we see trash, graffiti, other things around generally. So it's not going to happen. People just don't want to pick up dog waste. Some people, not all, but some. And finally, I would add that the reason we have to have laws focuses on people, unfortunately, not always doing the right thing, and there has to be some sort of standard to measure them against. And without those laws, there's no ability, whether it's for animal control or the police or any other law enforcement agency, to enforce what society decides is good and reasonable behavior. So I look forward to looking at a copy of this modification to the municipal code and the proposed changes as soon as possible, so that we in the public can individually react back with any changes or additional suggestions. Thank you.
Well, if that's about it, I guess we'll just call it a night. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay.